an AppleVis original.
Hello there, and welcome to the AppleVis Extra. It has been a while, but we are back together to talk about Apple's peak performance announcement today. Scott, Davert, have we got you in peak performance today?
Oh, I'm definitely doing peak performance today. I had a nice extra cup of coffee. I am ready to rock and roll and talk about this thing. How about you, Dave?
I am great. Thank you very much. And yeah, ready to go. Thomas Domville also joins me. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing pretty good. Yep. I'm with Scott. Rock and roll time.
Exciting times. And Tyler, how are you, buddy?
We know it's not baseball time.
I'm pretty good here.
Good stuff. So we had, an event today. Tim Cook out on stage, and they were right into it. Did you guys notice it was like no preamble at all today? He was like, welcome to Apple. Okay, so let's start with Apple TV Plus. Immediately he was in there. And the big announcement, I suppose, from the Apple TV Plus part was Major League Baseball on Friday nights. I'm not American. I don't watch baseball. What do you guys make of this one?
I think they struck out because, MLB's on strike. So that was kind of like very bad timing. You know, like they took over a year to, after the pandemic had gotten underway, to introduce all these FaceTime features, you know, being able to send it to Android devices and that sort of thing. And now they're kind of off on their timing a little bit with the baseball thing, too, because they're on strike and have been, I think, since December, if memory serves. So who knows? Is that even going to happen? Let's hope it won't be another Air Power.
Exactly, because that could be a whole year. But nonetheless, to the point, I thought Apple doing an exclusive for Friday night baseball. Yeah, that's going to be pretty kind of sort of big here. That I don't know how big that's going to be, Dave. I'm really anxious to hear about this. I know they've been talking to our American NFL here, which is our football, not to be confused with soccer, but American football. And they were talking about doing exclusive rights for a night as well. So I like it because I love watching baseball myself. So I already have Apple TV Plus, but are people going to flock to it? I doubt it. But, you know, they were touting all the new Apple TV Plus upcoming series and movies and stuff like that. I think it has matured. That is definitely a good platform to own. I love it. I love the MLB. If baseball even takes off for this year. Bad timing. I agree with Scott. Yeah,
well, to some extent that's out of their control, I guess. But I do think it's interesting in the sense that they're getting into sports at all. So whereas, you know, baseball wouldn't be my own interest, but if that's a sign that, hey, next year maybe they're going to try and get Premier League football or soccer, or, you know, rugby or anything else, you know, is this the beginning of them dipping their toes into sports? And I think that could be very interesting. Amazon have obviously moved into that space as well. So we're just seeing more and more international competition in sports, which is, interesting.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because I saw a report a couple weeks back that Apple was looking to dip its toes into sports, specifically to improve its Apple News Plus offerings. That was something that launched about 2 years ago to a generally lukewarm reception. And it hasn't really taken off much since then. I don't use it and I don't hear much about it. But I heard a while back that they were looking to get into sports so that as a way to enhance Apple News Plus with, I don't know if they want exclusive content or for people to pick, you know, their favorite teams and get more personalized material. I don't know, but I find that interesting. I'm wondering if that's, you know, this is Apple TV Plus, but I'm wondering if perhaps they're looking to gain a foothold in the sports world, you know, to give them credibility to eventually move on to doing whatever they want to do with Apple TV or Apple News Plus, rather, getting that, you know, getting improved sports content in a way to sort of differentiate it from other news services and make it more appealing than it maybe is today.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, you've got things like The Athletic, which is now a huge organization, which is a modern sports journalism platform. So there is definitely a market for that.
I think Apple's going to get a lot of flack for this, especially if you're right, Dave. If they start getting into more of the sports, you can only see it on Apple TV Plus. I don't know why. It just seems Apple's just seems to be the easy target. It's kind of like, oh, sure, I can't watch this game. I don't have Apple TV Plus. Blah 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 blah. And I can see that.
It'll depend on price as well, because at the moment, $4.99 a month, it's the cheapest streaming service out there. So if you're getting that for that price, you're doing pretty well.
True.
Compared to what sports subscriptions often cost. And it's funny you mentioned News Plus, Tyler, because you say it hasn't done all that well. Equally, when they launched, they said, oh, it's going to be in more countries soon, and 2 or 3 years later, I don't know if they've expanded at all, have they?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so. You know what they really should do, though? If they want to do the sports thing and they want to do it right, how about exclusive rights to like the World Cup? Now that would bring in people, here in the States, we call it soccer. It's not as big of a thing, but you go to Europe and Dave, you can probably tell us this too. The World Cup and what the rest of the world calls football is a really big deal.
It's literally the biggest sporting event in the world officially, even bigger than the Olympics. So yeah, that would be huge. Mm-hmm. I think it's generally been Fox and NBC and those guys who've had the rights over the years. So yeah, definitely an interesting space. And if you're wondering, the MLB is going to be available in 8 countries. They are US, Canada, Australia, UK, and then I think there was Korea, Japan, and 2 others I forget. So 8 countries to begin with. And then again, they've said they'll expand beyond that. But I think the US and Canada get more content than the other countries.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense if they're doing Friday night baseball, but the problem is that for anybody in Europe or the Middle East or anywhere like that, or Africa, I know Africa is not included at all in the list of countries, but that's the middle of the night over there. I don't think too many people are going to be watching baseball at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
You say that, and baseball probably isn't the biggest one, because NFL, had they got that, could have been a different story, because NFL has become more and more popular in Europe. There's even talk of there being a team in London at some point, actually based in London.
Sure.
And people do stay up quite late watching that.
Well, the thing about the NFL is that most of their games, not all, most of them are afternoon games here in the States, which would be evening over in Europe. So that kind of makes sense, right? Because people don't have to stay up unless you want to catch the Monday night or Sunday night game. You don't have to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, so football actually makes a little more sense. Although if you want to watch the Super Bowl, hate to break it to you, you'll be up late. Yeah,
I've tried a couple of times, but I usually fail. So that's Apple TV Plus anyway. I think, in a general sense, I would say I still think Apple TV is a really good service and getting better. That catalog is getting bigger and bigger, and I do actually recommend it to people. But we can move on from Apple TV Plus. They made a quick announcement about iPhone 13, which is simply 2 new colors. This is a rumor I hadn't seen until maybe yesterday. It suddenly popped out. Both green, so an iPhone 13 in green and 13 Pro in Alpine green. Is that correct?
Alpine green, that's right. Hey, how's that different? Didn't we have midnight green last year? I was trying to remember.
I believe so.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, oh, look, we'll just change the color by Alpine green. I was like, okay.
Yeah, where do they come up with these names?
Green. Well, that's good. I know people like colors, and they always want more colors, and so more colors. It's just kind of funny they have to make it big in a keynote. And we have green, Alpine green, and that actually made it in the keynote. It's like, really? Do you need to do that? I mean, that could have just had a PR article on and say, hey, green's now available. I think you would get the same excitement, which is really not there.
Yeah.
But they need to express it with terms like these vibrant, beautiful colors. They need to express it, in a way that, That's why they have the names. I think that's why they have the names like Midnight or Starlight or whatever other names they use, is because it's things like green and gray or black. It's comparatively boring for someone who's interested.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think my problem, Tyler, is I forgot to drink the Kool-Aid before it, so maybe it would have been a lot better. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Samsung do too. Like they got like, I don't know, amazing red and things like that as well. So it's all part of the game. In fairness, Tom, I don't think they'd have done it. I think this was because they were doing an announcement anyway, sort of situation. Yeah. We may as well mention it. The main iPhone announcement, and I think probably the main thing we're going to be interested in talking about, was iPhone SE 3, if that's what we're calling it, or third gen SE. So it has the A15 Bionic chip, so the same as the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro. That means it will support things like live text and some of those AI kind of features that maybe were missing from previous versions. It comes in 3 colors, which are Midnight, Starlight, and Product Red. I don't know if that's Midnight Blue, Midnight Green, or Midnight something else. They just said Midnight. It's got the Touch ID button. I get the impression it's exactly the same body as the previous SE. So it has your Touch ID home button. 5G, which they didn't actually bang on about too much, but they did mention. And better camera, on-device Siri. And yeah, they're kind of the highlights of it, available from $429. So, guys, what do we think? Scott, you're an SE fan.
I'm debating which one to get, actually. Just to cut to the chase. By the way, because I don't know if it was clear in the presentation, but I saw a couple articles between then and now. The 5G support for the SE3 is not going to include the millimeter bands. So that's it only includes the lower frequencies, which I'm not really sure even now how much people would miss the millimeter bands because they're kind of flaky. You know, you have to be within a very specific area to get them to work and to make them go fast. Whereas the lower bands are definitely slower, but the range is better. So I think it's good that, they at least included the lower bands. I'm not really that excited about 5G myself. Maybe I'm old. I don't know.
I'm like you. I don't care about it at all.
Right. I mean, I have 4G and I'm happy with it. If I get 5G, it's a bonus, but, it's not something I'm going to, well, that phone has 5G. I better go with that, So that's the only sort of drawback or sort of misleading thing, if you're somebody that wants those millimeter bands. But as an SE2 owner, I'm going for the upgrade, mostly because of Touch ID and the faster processor. What I like about the processor and what I've been finding, I don't know, like in theory, but I know in practice anyway, the faster the processor, the better the Bluetooth works for whatever reason. So, and I have a little bit of issues with Bluetooth now with both my Braille display and hearing aids. So I'm hoping the SE3, like the 12 mini, I won't have those issues, and that would be great.
Cool, yeah. Hopefully. Thomas, you're like a 13 or 12. What are you on nowadays? And have you ever been tempted to go back?
I got the 12 Pro. No, I'm not going to go with the SE, but I tell you, Dave, this phone is still an incredible phone. Don't get me wrong. For a budget entry phone, you get 5G with it. And you get the latest, greatest processor, which, when you look at any budget Android line, you get this subpar processor. You're getting the top of line chip that you can find on the Pro, which is on an SC for a lot less price. The price factor, I like that it went to $429. They did increase the price by $30, which was not something unheard of. But some people were hoping it would be like $299 mark, but Apple isn't going to do that. Yeah. Some of the tidbits I heard too. Some of the things just to note is that it does support a lot of the iOS 15 features that you couldn't get before. So that's a bonus because you're getting that chip. The 5G, yes, you get the sub 6. You don't get the 5 millimeter wave. No big deal on that. However, I am a huge 5G fan here myself because I got great reception. Just to give you an idea, I was probably getting anywhere from 10 to 30 megabits when I was on my LTE. Now I'm getting anywhere from 120 to 400 megabits on my 5G. So 400 megabits, I don't know, guys, compared to 40. Yes, I realize a lot of people say, I'm not going to see much of this, but man, you can see it when you download videos and stuff. It's just like boom. So I think that's a big deal. And being on a budget phone, I think that's going to be huge. Now, some of the tidbits, like you noticed that there was no ceramic shield on the glass. They didn't mention, so it doesn't have that. I was kind of surprised that it's not MagSafe compatible. I thought they at least put some sort of a MagSafe on it, but they did not. Other than that, it's a fantastic phone, Touch ID and the whole 9 yards. I was happy in what I heard. Was there anything in there that I wasn't expecting? Not really. Camera is so-so. It's not as good as 12 or 13, so you don't get that cineramic. Not anybody would be able to do cinematography, but still, for a budget phone, I think it's the best deal out there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's a really solid phone for the price. I mean, that the fact I think one of you called it out there that it's the same processor as the 13, like in a budget phone. You just don't get that generally speaking.
You just don't. It's one processor for all three lines. It's like, wow, that's awesome right there.
Yeah.
And of course, Touch ID is a big thing for a lot of people, especially like Scott. You're really big on the Touch ID thing a lot, aren't you?
I am. I'm not really big on the Face ID because, my face is so ugly. Like that I would probably have to, take a picture of the backside, not the front, to make it work. But I've always been more of a Touch ID fan because I don't take my phone out of my pocket. It always is in my pocket. So, it just makes a lot more sense for someone who's using their phone through a Braille display or even a Bluetooth keyboard, maybe, depending on how their system, how they have their things set up. But that was my big problem with Face ID, was that I had to take the phone out of my pocket and, activate it that way. I could just reach in my pocket and I have both of my thumbs as prints on Touch ID. So it's really just nice and easy and convenient. I know it's not the most modern thing, but for me, it's the most functional, and that's really what's important.
I just couldn't go back to not having the whole screen be screen, the whole front be screen. That's the bit that stops me. I do like Touch ID. I have like a Pixel phone that has a Google one that has Touch ID on the back, and it's great. But
yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, why can't Apple do that? I know we're Apple, but Apple based or Apple focused, but like the Samsung phones, they have an iris scanner, they have Face ID or whatever they call it. I guess just facial recognition, and the Touch ID type thing on the back of the phone. Why can't we have all of those worlds on our iPhones?
We will. Apple just has to do everything first so they can get the money out of it. And then they'll start adding two things together, and they'll put three things together. It's all in the roadmap. That's what I think.
Hopefully.
I have to agree with you. That's exactly what it is.
Tyler, what about yourself?
Oh, so I have an iPhone SE 2020, like Scott, and I'm on the fence right now. What I'm going to do, I'm in Maine, just outside of Portland, Maine, and I'm not sure exactly what the situation is in the area with 5G deployments. I know carriers nationally are banging the drum to death over 5G and ultra fast and ultra wideband and C-band and other marketing. I don't know if they're just marketing terms or what distinguish. I mean, obviously there's sub 6 gigahertz and millimeter wave, but obviously the new SE doesn't include millimeter wave. But regardless, I'm going to try and do a little research on what the situation is in the area around 5G deployments, because if there isn't 5G, it really doesn't make. I wouldn't upgrade for something that I can't really take advantage of in my day-to-day life. But by the same token, even if I can use 5G in the area, for what I use my phone for, particularly when I leave my house, LTE is more than sufficient. Like I don't experience slowness or any kind of performance, any meaningful delay when using LTE. And I don't really, I mean, ever since COVID, and maybe even before COVID, I don't, if I use the internet, I'm more often than not, I'm at home on Wi-Fi. So I'm not sure what immediate benefit 5G would have. The A15 processor, that's also interesting. It's 2 iterations above the A13, so I could get a decent boost in performance. My SE with the A13, it handles my needs well, and I'm not a Braille user, so I can't speak to that. But like as far as Bluetooth, I have one Bluetooth device that I use constantly. It's a hearing aid streamer. But if Bluetooth reliability is better, I mean, it's pretty reliable, but any increase in reliability or decrease in latency, with upgraded processors is welcome for my use case, particularly if I get new made for iPhone hearing aids in the near future, which I'm hoping to do, to replace the streamer and just use the hearing aids. And that will be, just direct Bluetooth from phone to hearing aids. So I need as much reliability for that as I can get. So, and if that's the case, then, and if I hear that there is improved reliability, then I'll definitely consider it. But as of right now, I'm on the fence.
Cool.
Well, and if I can just step in for a second and say what I can tell you, Tyler, and I don't think the Bluetooth chips themselves have really changed much over the last few years. Mm-hmm. They may have, and maybe I'm not aware, but I can tell you the 8 I had all kinds of problems with. The 10R I had was a little less. The SE 2020 has been less, and I was messing around with the 12 mini, which I have for my research facility, and I pretty much had no issue with Bluetooth, even with both the Braille display and my hearing aids connected. So if you're kind of struggling a little bit with the Bluetooth on your hearing aids, it might be worth consideration. And since I'm getting one,
it's interesting because normally I don't struggle with Bluetooth. I mean, it's usually pretty reliable, except I have a Phonak Compilot. That's the product I'm using. That it's at the end, And so I'll have my hearing aids in my ear, and sometimes when I'm working out, that it'll get jostled a little, and sometimes a subtle movement on when I'm working out on the elliptical will cause a bit of a stutter if I'm listening to music. And again, that's not a huge deal for me, but it's definitely something to consider, especially if I do away with the streamer and get direct Bluetooth hearing aids, where that will pair up directly to the phone. Because I know reliability with that, I've heard mixed reports from various users about the reliability, of voiceover and hearing aids, which is that's a whole other discussion. But so that's sort of that's my thinking at this point.
Yeah, and the Compilot is kind of I guess I wouldn't quite call it obsolete, but it's been around a long time.
Yeah,
and it's, from what I could tell anyway, it seems like it's gotten better. The latency with Bluetooth is a lot less than it was, say, in iOS 12. So it's got that going for it. But pretty much, like I said, the iPhone 12 and up, I've not really had any issues with in terms of Bluetooth, and like one hearing aid dropping out or the other one, which is really annoying.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from people, is that there are I've heard sporadic reports, and I don't know, you probably know more about that than I do, but yeah.
I will definitely be interested to hear what the community at large thinks of this. I think the SE is really a very popular iPhone in the blind community, so definitely interested to see how how this update is received and how it sells.
So the one thing about the SE that I wasn't clear on is they said that battery life has improved. Now, I was just watching the Twitter feed because I was doing other things, but they didn't really say how much, did they? How much it would improve? They just said, the battery life is better.
I didn't even hear battery life. I heard something like battery technology is improved or something.
No, I heard the battery life has improved. I mean, obviously, you're coming from a new processor. If I had to guess, it'd be 10 to 15% better. That's just an assumption, but that's probably a good ballpark figure.
I didn't hear a great deal of specificity in the keynote about that. They did mention that their state-of-the-art battery chemistry, and I think what they were, the A15 in comparison to the A13 is better efficiency, and it's maybe if that better efficiency could translate to better battery life. That's what I think that's what I think they were driving at in that.
Because the 13 mini got a better battery, has better battery life than the 12 mini in exactly the same small chassis. So it's probably a similar, just improvement in the
processor augmentation.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, also getting 5G and a new processor was the iPad Air, the 5th generation. So it's got now a M1 chip. So like the iPad Pro and some of the new Macs that have come out over the last year and a half, it has the M1 chip instead of an A15 or A14 or whatever you may have expected. This is, they say, 2 times faster than the best-selling Windows machine in their price range. I always find these comparisons funny because we never get a name. But 60% faster than, and improved performance over the 4th gen. It has a front camera now that's 12 megapixels and has center stage. So like the iPad Pro and the regular iPad, they all now have center stage, which is the feature that where the camera kind of follows you a little bit. If you move, as you move, it will keep you in focus in the center of the picture. And as I said, 5G. So it's it's a pretty decent update. I have an iPad 4th gen myself and Air 4th gen that is, and really, really like it. I wouldn't be in any position to be upgrading it because it does absolutely everything I need as it is. But if you're buying an iPad, I think this is a really, really good option. What does anyone else think?
Putting an M1 and a smaller scale iPad. Wow. I thought that would be exclusive to the Pro. And so you talk about stealing some thunder away from the Pro. Now for $699, you get an iPad Air with the M1 on it, and you get the same
$599.
$599. Okay. So you get the Apple Pencil 2.0 support with that. I was like, wow, this is pretty good. I always say, and I can see this being great for those that are in productivity area, as in graphical artists to movies and things like that. You can take and utilize this chip. Otherwise, I think a standard person is going to be you're not going to even be able to use half of that power, if you know what I mean. A basic user probably would only use the tip of the iceberg of what that thing can do. But what a great price factor for something huge and fast. That's just amazing. So I was glad to see that. I was a little bit surprised at that. The camera update didn't surprise me. They were just trying to upgrade all the iPads to the 12 megapixels. So overall, I think the M1 was the biggest push and sale for this iPad Air.
I find myself, if I was going to get an iPad, and I'm not, but if I was going to, I'm thinking, well, pretty much anything I would have wanted out of an iPad Pro is in this new 5th generation iPad Air. Why would I bother with a Pro? I don't,
exactly.
For myself, I really don't see any major factor that would cause me to even think about an iPad Pro now, which is good for me, but bad for Apple.
Yeah, it's really like Face ID instead of Touch ID, because this still has Touch ID in the power button, and LiDAR maybe. Is there anything else?
Maybe the screen 11, is the iPad Air, am I correct that it's a 10.5 inch, and the iPad Pro, you can get an 11-inch screen or a 12.9, something like that. It's more iPad marketing over the years is confusing, I find, compared to their other brands. But is that accurate? Do I have those specs?
I can't honestly remember.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering with this iPad, if I was going to get one, which I'm not, but you have to wonder what Apple's end game is with when you're putting the M1, a very powerful chip, in an iPad. And in this case, not even the top level Pro iPad, because right now with iPad OS, it seems largely underutilized. What the potential of the M1 versus what the software potential of iPad OS, there's a big gap there. So you have to wonder what Apple plans to do with all of this power, all this computational power that they're putting in the iPad. What are they planning to do with iPad OS? Are they going to bring their own Pro apps like Final Cut, Logic, Xcode, those types of things to the iPad? Or Because I know other developers have like Adobe, there's Adobe products for the iPad and other types of things. But if they're going to really if Apple is going to really turn it up, then if they could bring their own Pro apps to the iPad, and if there were certain ways where they could make iPad OS more, if there were certain things they could do with iPad OS to make it more, pro level, add some pro level features to really take advantage of that chip.
We will see a WD. I'm pretty certain in WDC we're going to see probably a big bump in the iPad OS 16. I bet we'll see some more stuff.
Tavis, I love your optimism because we've been having that conversation for 5 years now.
It's true, yeah.
Hey, I don't know. Is it just me, or does this mean sometime in a couple of years we might see an M1 on the phone?
That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Think about that.
Really, though, part of that is marketing, isn't it? An M1 and an A15 aren't all that different, except the M1 has some extra cores. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know. It almost makes sense. It's, because now you have the iPad and you have the Mac line all in the same. Well, yes, there's variations of M1, which we'll be talking about soon here, but nonetheless, they're all using the M1 technology. So the iPhone is now the last one that's not using the M1 technology. So it makes you wonder.
Well, the entry-level iPad is still an A as well.
That's true, but those are going to be replaced probably this fall.
We shall see.
Yes,
it's great for when I think about an M1 on an iPhone, and it would be certainly a pro feature, but when I think about when I used to do music production and stuff like that, it blows my mind that the stuff that they're coming up with now. I mean, you can do a set from your iPhone if you really wanted to. And I'm talking electronic music. Even 10 years ago, it's come so far. It's so amazing that, oh boy, I just used that Apple word, amazing. But it really is the fact that you can do a lot of the things that you can do now on something that's, fits into the palm of your hand. And, if they put an M1 on the phone, and I do agree it would be a few years, that would be great for so many things, that require a lot of processing power. But then are they going to have an M2 or an M3 or something more advanced on the iPad? Because they have to do something, screen size alone. I don't know that would really keep the iPad being successful.
It'll be a mobile version. It'll just be like M something. So M1 mobile. That's what they'll probably call it.
Could be. Yeah. I think whatever they call it, they do seem to be streets ahead of the competition when it comes to processors.
Oh, yeah. They're just spinning round circles around them, which brings our next one. This is the big one. I thought it was pretty big.
The Mac and the Mac, what is it called? The Mac Studio?
Mac Studio.
Mac display. Studio. So yeah, they brought out the M1 Ultra. So we had the M1, then we had the M1 Pro and Max, and now we have the M1 Ultra. If I understood right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it is in effect two M1 Maxes fused together in a sense. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right. Two Macs together, fused together.
Yeah, but it appears as one system on a chip to the software, high efficiency, high performance. I think I heard 24 core processor and 64 core graphics.
Yep.
So really, really powerful chip, and the machine is 3.7 inches times 7.7 inches in it physically. It's a very small machine. It's like a Mac Mini Plus, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's described, this was kind of a last minute rumor that this Mac Studio would be coming out, because for the longest time it was always like an updated high-end Mac Mini, but this appears to be a Mac Mini, Mac Pro hybrid. That's what it was sort of touted as before. People who had inside knowledge or scoops on this were describing it as the Mac Mini, Mac Pro hybrid. I guess that's the best way to conceptualize it.
That's right. So instead of the iMac, now we have Mac Mini, we have the Mac Studio, and then we have the Mac Pro.
Correct.
Yep.
Which theoretically is a entry, middle, and top line, but at the moment, the middle, the Studio, is more powerful than the top, the Pro. According to Apple's numbers.
This is supposed to be the middle line, guys. So the Mac Pro, they teased us at the end of the show. The Mac Pro is coming, and I'm thinking, oh man, if the Mac Studios was this big, and that's the middle line. Oh, wow. I wish, I was a fly in the Intel's boardroom. They were just throwing stuff against the wall and cussing. And there was it was incredible because the pricing on this, Dave, just was mind-blowing to me because I felt so bad for those that bought the MacBook Pro with the Pro chips. They started, $2,500? And now you can get the M1 Max for less than that, like $500 cheaper. For $19.99, I was like, wow, that just blew my mind.
Yeah, well, notebooks are always more expensive, I suppose. But yeah.
I know, but it's not even a Max. It's like I get that, but you think the price would be just a little bit cheaper on the MacBook Pro if your processor it's not a Max, and this thing is, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll be very interested when the Mac Pro comes out. What's above Ultra? What word can they use next?
And compared to the the Mac Pro, when you cap that, it started $5,000, and you can cap it out at $15,000. On this one, it starts at $2,999?
I think $1,999.
I thought it was $19.99.
Well, for the Ultra.
Oh, the Ultra was $3,299.
So it's $1,000 cheaper than what the Mac Pro started, and it's faster than that. Plus, if you want to load it out, it's only $8,000 compared to $15,000. Now, I know I'm throwing numbers out like, ooh, that's nothing, but oh my God, that's so much money. But you definitely know this is definitely for the high-end production when it comes to music, videos, all that stuff. That's just for those people. This is not for the general user. Now, they did try to tout that the Mac Studio Max as being more of a general user. So I'm thinking, wow.
It's a pretty high-end general user all the same.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's going to be some people who bought an M1 iMac who might be kind of scratching their head and thinking, I wish I'd held fire now.
I know. I think they kind of knocked some of the knees out of some people that have already purchased the MacBook Pro and stuff like that, the other Macs. So they're probably like, oh, what the heck? And so soon.
Yeah, it does. It looks cool. I think if you want a desktop and not an iMac, not an all-in-one, this looks like an amazing machine. I still think the Mac Mini will still be great for most of us who do just regular things. But
exactly. And, you can't fuss about the monitor. I mean, yeah, the monitor's still $2,000, but hey, that comes with the stand.
Yeah.
Is the new Studio display is it $1,599 US dollars? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But then there's a stand. There's something that the nano glass texture. Don't really know what that is, but it's something display related. But I don't. It's like something like $300, and the stand is $400 for the stand or the adjustable stand or something.
The old ones used to be like $1,000 just for the stand. This stand is already, yeah. So this is already built into the monitor, so the stand comes with it. So for $14, well, no, it was a little higher. I can't remember. It was $15.99 for the monitor,
I think.
Yeah, and so that comes with the stand. I was surprised they put. What did they say? They put an A13 processor inside of that. I was like, wow. Of course. I mean, for that price, you want everything. I mean, it's a 5K Retina, which is beautiful, I'm sure, and got all the microphones, got the camera, but you got to buy that separately. Still, that's pretty high compared when you have to put out $2,000 just for the new line. But regardless, I'm pretty impressed by the Mac Studios. I can't wait to see the Mac Pro. Not that I don't think most of our listeners will ever get a Mac Pro, but I could see some people getting the Mac Studio. I could see some people. So I think that was big. I thought that was huge for what this Ultra thing, that just blew my mind.
Okay, so the Mac Studio, it's a very high end, it's definitely above my use case, and it's not something I'll be getting, even if I did have the money for it. The M1 Ultra, that's interesting. They're calling it Ultra Fusion, and they made it sound like from the presentation that it was like two physical chips, but to the software it was one logical chip. So I don't know exactly how they do that. I'm going to look for a deep dive at some point to see if I can get more information into actually how that works. Because that just sounds, regardless of whether or not I actually want it, it just sounds like an interesting concept. It kind of reminds me a little of, remember Fusion drives, where you'd have a hard drive and an SSD, two physical disks, fused into one logical volume. So that's what it sounds like. Sounds similar to that. The Ultra. And it made it sound from the presentation, it made it sound like that was the last thing in the M1 lineup. They said they need one, they have the M1, the M1 Pro, the M1 Max. Now they need one more member of the M1 family. So with that being the Ultra, I would assume that something like a Mac Pro and other Macs, to come later this year and beyond, will use something like M2, and then maybe it'll be, a similar cycle, M2 for the MacBook Air and those low end iMac or whatever, and then M2 Pro, M2 Max, and then M2 Ultra for the Mac Pro, which they did mention. Yeah, like someone said earlier, they did mention that. They said the only product left is the Mac Pro, and that's for another day. One thing that I found interesting is that the Mac Mini, if I'm not mistaken, is still the high-end, quote, high-end Intel Mac Mini is still available for purchase alongside that. And I'm wondering if that's temporary, or what are they? I would assume they would have discontinued that, but maybe they're doing it for affordability options or for people who want more than an M1 Mini. But
no way. I think they'll replace it. I think it's temporary, but you're right.
Because that is, because then there's that. And then of course the Mac Pro is the only one that hasn't really been transitioned, because I saw they discontinued the 27-inch iMac. So if you're getting an iMac, it's going to be a 24-inch M1. So yeah, the Mac Pro, that's the only thing that hasn't been transitioned to Apple Silicon.
Yeah. I expect there to be another iMac, a 27-inch iMac on the M1 or M2.
Yeah, I saw a report today, the Intel version of the 20 that was previously available, the Intel 27-inch, which was previously alongside the 24-inch M1, has been discontinued. But I would expect maybe the summer or fall, we'll be seeing some 27-inch iMac, or perhaps they'll call it an iMac Pro, however they decide to brand that. And I would expect that would maybe include, either, I don't know if that would be an M2 or an M1 Pro / Max / Ultra. Perhaps.
The number might go up to M2, but I think it'll be the Pro and the Max in that one. Yeah. Maybe it could be the iMac Studio, who knows? And who knows, the Mac Pro might have 2 Ultras or 3 Ultras or something in it. You wouldn't know. Or else they'll call it like
Ultra Fusion.
Yeah, or the M1 Atomic or the M1. There's always room for another
Ultra Fusion Squared.
But I think you're right, Tyler. My understanding is actual 2 M1 Mac chip. They just were able to fuse it or bridge it to run as a single chip. Mm-hmm. But it's not a physical chip, I think.
Yeah, it's one logical chip, 2 physical chips, or at least that's my understanding of it.
The software sees it as one.
Yeah.
So that's kind of everything they announced today. If I picked up right, everything is out on March 18th. Some of them were available. I think the Macs are available to order today, but come out on the 18th. And the iPhone and iPad, I believe, are pre-order from Friday this week, and available again on the 18th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
I promise you jump on those if you're wanting, because I bet you they're going to go fast, just like the iPad, the Mini, how they had such a slog of problems with the supply chain that it's back ordered big time. So jump on if you want it quickly. And don't forget, the 15th is where we'll see the iOS 15.4 drop.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the other thing too with I tell you, it's tough for me on the East Coast. I had to get up at 3 a.m. to pre-order. Ugh. But I'm gonna do it on the SE only.
Oh, for your SE? So you are going to get your SE3O. Good job. I think
Yes,
it'd be great.
sir.
Yeah,
That
looking
is
forward
my
to
next
hearing.
iPhone. In fact, I because the rumors. This is the first time I've ever made a gambled on a rumor. But when they started saying that the body is going to be the same as the SE2, I went ahead and got a Mophie case for the SE2, which I can now use on the SE3. So that'll be good. So even if the battery life is awful, and I don't think it will be at first, but as time goes on, it will be. I'll still be able to basically double my battery life, which on this SE2, I have to. Like I can't get through a full day.
It says the SE. I know there's been a slight camera change on the SE3, meaning they went with the 2 lens. Obviously, you never know about those camera lens. I'd be curious if it will be the same. Let's hope it is. But I know they made a slight change on the back with the camera.
Do you remember
Like a
there was
camera bump?
Yeah, that can. The bump may be the same though, because if it's the square, it may have the same square cutout. It might be okay, but it may not. It's like with the was it the iPad Pro last year? They made it like a millimeter thicker, and then it didn't fit the keyboard thing properly. So these things can happen.
Boy.
So Dave, you still on the 12 Pro Mini or the 12 Pro 12 Mini?
12 Mini, yeah.
Are you going to go with the SE?
No, because I don't want to go back to the chin and the borders all around the phone. I like the full screen phone.
It is funny how people like the chin. Some people don't. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I could go back to the chin. I've gotten so used to you being able to use the bottom portion of my screen and not have to worry about it. It's full size screen. Now, what about you, Tyler? Are you going to go with the 3.0 or are you going to stick with your 2.0? I'm
going to do a little research and take it from there. I'm going to sort of play it by ear.
Do it, Tyler.
I'm
going to be the devil on your shoulder and tell you just go for it.
Do it.
Cool. Anyone else? Anything else for anyone else, as they say?
Nope.
I think
pretty much covers it.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'll add is that most of the things that came out here was not of a surprise. It's the iPhone and the iPad. It was mostly what I thought it was going to be. I didn't the MLB was kind of a cool announcement for those that really care about that. The M1 and the iPad was cool. And the Mac Studios, well, for most of us, we're never going to get it, but it was just kind of entertaining and fun to listen to.
Yeah.
But we're forgetting about the racing game coming to Apple Arcade.
That's right. Next month, we can take advantage of a new racing game that we can't use.
On that note, I am going to say thank you very much, Tyler. Thank you, Scott. And thank you, Thomas, for joining me on this podcast today. My name is Dave Nason, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thanks.
This AppleVis podcast has been brought to you by the community of AppleVis.com. For the latest in resources and tips and tricks to get you the best experience from your Apple device, visit www.applevis.com.